So the headline, Harry Litman, was that the United States Supreme Court, in a 5-4 decision, denied Donald Trump's emergency request to stay or stop or block his criminal sentencing that took place on Friday. Trump was sentenced on Friday. It was a no prison sentence, no condition sentence, but nonetheless, he was sentenced. What's more fascinating, Harry, is that it was a 5-4 decision, and there's a broader question that we should discuss. Are we seeing a realignment, if you will, of the court of Justice John Roberts and Amy Coney Barrett joining with the liberal judges, the judges appointed by, or the justices appointed by Democratic administrations, and forming a new block on certain types of cases to potentially step in and block some of the excesses and constitutional violations of Donald Trump as we head into the next Trump term, after the Supreme Court, the Roberts Court, gave Donald Trump absolute immunity, ruled in favor of Donald Trump on the 14th Amendment, Section 3 case, found in favor of Donald Trump on a lot of other cases and procedural maneuvers along the way. Is what we're seeing here, beyond just 5-4 denial, a broader message to Trump. We gave you a lot. Don't test us. We are still a co-equal branch of government, and this is the first time that we're going to assert it in a way that may be surprising to you, Donald, but this may become the norm. Now, a lot of MAGA influencers, Harry, are pissed at Amy Coney Barrett. I mean, this guy, Cat Turd, who's a big influencer for MAGA, it's embarrassing that I said that, but I could show you 50 other MAGA influencers. They all sound like this right now. Traitor, Mitch McConnell, globalist plant, fraud, snake, backstabber, phony, sellout, leftist, puppet, weasel, fake, plastic loser. I mean, very misogynistic and disgusting stuff, but what else would you expect? But look, Amy Coney Barrett was appointed by Donald Trump. Remember when Ruth Bader Ginsburg passed away, they rushed Amy Coney Barrett in like a record time in. One of Amy Coney Barrett's big issues was overturning Roe v. Wade. She was a professor at Notre Dame. It was clear that you read everything. That was obvious where she was going to go. But it's interesting, Harry, because on other issues, other than, that really bad ruling in Dobbs, she actually is a little bit more ambiguous than some of the other right-wing justices on where she stands on these issues. Harry, you clerked with Justice Kagan. You worked with these people. You were a clerk twice at the Supreme Court, so you know the inner workings. What do you think's going on here, Harry?
Wow. So there's quite a lot in that question, Ben. Let me get to Barrett in a moment, because on the 5-4, glass half full, half empty, had they pulled the trigger on this and let him wipe the slate clean of all criminal conduct, it would have been a really sort of historic outrage. Because I'm here to tell you, we don't have to go into it, but the claims were very weak. So to me, that they got 4 votes for this crap, including Kavanaugh joining them, actually sent shivers down my spine for what we can expect in Trump 2.0. And you mentioned Barrett, who everyone is mad at. Of course, the other is the Chief Justice, John Roberts, who went with them. But I think we've discerned a pattern over the years that where it's a really big thing for the Republican Party, or as he views it, the nation, he will not try to play statesman. Here he did, but as that second part of the short Supreme Court opinion said, the stakes were 0 because he was going to get an unconditional discharge. By the way, I'll remind you, you forced me to it when we talked last week, and I thought it was a close call, but you forced me to it, and I predicted they wouldn't. I got it right that they didn't intervene and the sentencing went forward. But it was a really close call, and I am dismayed that Kavanaugh was in with them for what it was a really crappy set of claims. More generally, however, I think you're right about Barrett, and the hope against hope would be that Justice Kagan, who really does have really adroit political skills, I mean that in a good way, is kind of bringing her around. This morning, there was the big argument in the TikTok case. If you'll give me a quick detour here. And there, I think it's going to be overwhelmingly for the government, but the questions of both Kagan and Barrett were really, Kagan advanced an important way of looking at the case, which was essentially TikTok's not being regulated here. ByteDance, the Chinese company, is, and the effects on TikTok are incidental. So therefore, you wouldn't have strict scrutiny. That would be the whole ball game. And Barrett picked up on exactly that. So the thing to keep one's eye on is whether, hope against hope, there's the emergence of a sort of 3, Alito, Gorsuch, Thomas, 2, Kavanaugh and Roberts, and that they came apart here is very unusual. Almost always they're in lockstep. They're the 2 justices who are most often in the majority, like 95% of the time. But then could we possibly have a Barrett-Kagan mini alliance and then Sotomayor and Jackson? I want to say one more quick thing about this, the 5-4, which is it is a total outrage that Justice Alito took a call from Donald Trump this week as it was pending, completely unnecessary, a supposedly vouching for a former clerk of his, but you can do that in writing. You can do it next week. And it was so brazen that it gave me the sense that maybe Alito's just washing his hands of the whole thing, and maybe, just maybe, he, and you also want to keep your eye on Thomas, is planning to retire early in Trump's term to give him a chance to replace him, because that was, for someone who's been criticized justifiably for financial reasons, that was the kind of direct communication that no judge would dare to do. It's back sort of the Abe Fortas, Lyndon Johnson days, for which Fortas got so pilloried. And it was an outrage. And then, of course, Alito votes with him. So glass half empty, glass half full, a big ruling by the court, but geez, it was closer than it should have been. It was skin of our teeth.
So a few points there that I think are important. So for everybody listening, Justice Kagan was appointed by former President Barack Obama. One of the things that Harry's saying is, and based on personal experience, at least knowing the type of person Justice Kagan is, that she not only is a great jurist, but she also has a very good skill at getting people to join her. There's a, I don't want to say political in the sense of Democrat v. Republican, but she knows how to maneuver and to help win friends and make friends out of enemies, and how to do that very smartly. So Harry, you're saying that she knows how to, Harry, you may be on mute there, but you were saying that she was able to do that. One other point I want to make: Justice Amy Coney Barrett also was one of the people who filed a separate opinion in the 14th Amendment Section 3 case back in March. So y'all will remember that was a 9-0 opinion, in the sense that all the justices said that Colorado should not have been able to disqualify Donald Trump. A state can disqualify state, but state shouldn't be able to disqualify federal, according to all 9 justices. Amy Coney Barrett and then the 3 liberal justices, they were in agreement, though separately, that the case should have really ended there. There was no other question that the court should have addressed. So why did the court go on and then say 14th Amendment Section 3 is not self-executing, and Congress under Section 5 of the 14th Amendment has to pass a law? Coney Barrett's like, you went too far, and the other 3 justices said you went too far. So I bring that up here, not to rehash the 14th Amendment Section 3, but to show you yet another example of where you see Coney Barrett. I think she was embarrassed about what Trump did with her, and making her appointment so political at the White House, and brought her on the balcony and kind of showed her off. I think that she's uncomfortable with a lot of the rhetoric and behavior stuff of Donald Trump based on her background. I think her main life's goal, and look, we shouldn't like that this was her life's goal, but her life's goal was to get rid of Roe v. Wade. and to end that as a precedent. She did that. That's very bad, in my opinion. But now on these, and there shouldn't be a but she's an ally potentially on other issues involving Donald Trump's excesses to try to violate the Constitution. That's what I think is going on here. And that's why this decision is more than just, oh, Trump got sentenced 5-4. We're seeing potentially the first signs of a broader trend that will follow. Harry, if your mic's on, I'll give you the last word.
I wanted to add just 2 more points about Amy Coney Barrett. Maybe even a better illustration is her opinion in the immunity case, where she's with them, except on this really pretty crazy addition to the opinion that says you cannot even introduce evidence of immune conduct. And that was the part of the opinion that was pivotal here, because Trump said he didn't try to say I was immune and shouldn't have been brought. He made that claim separately, but his pitch to the Supreme Court is they admitted evidence that was of immune conduct in addition to everything else. The conversation with Hope Hicks, for example, in the Oval Office, when she's telling him they're on, the Wall Street Journal is going to publish the story. Coney Barrett there said, we don't have to go and say that, and it doesn't make sense to me. And it was exactly that point. That's the first thing the court put in its opinion. There's no irreparable injury here, because if you're complaining about the evidentiary ruling, that's already happened. You don't get the whole benefit of immunity, as he did in the Trump v. U.S. trial, of having everything stopped so you don't have to go through trial. It's reparable injury, not irreparable. So that was actually the core that and her distinction there is what really could carry the day in the Supreme Court opinion. And then second, I'll just say she is a very interesting figure. I think her instincts are quite conservative. She clerked for Justice Scalia. Nevertheless, I think of the other 4 and Roberts too, as having come of age within this sort of hothouse of conservative thought, very affiliated with the Federalist Society and the like. She's not in the clubhouse in the same way. And in fact, she was at Notre Dame. Religion's a huge part of her life, obviously, but I just don't think she's that same kind of card-carrying Federalist Society member, which has troubled me so much about the court. And that is another reason why potentially she might separate out. And then a final point is, the people on the right are so arrogant and imperious and nasty, and that tends, I think, also for someone who's thoughtful in her way, that potentially pushes her away, even as Kagan is there to say, "Oh yeah, come to me, let's talk." So that all of that together makes her, I think, a very interesting figure, as you say.
Look, it makes it interesting to follow the dynamics of the court in this way. There have been dynamics like this in the past where people who were viewed as conservative actually became liberal, and vice versa in the history of the court, just diametrically.
Harry Blackman, right? The writer of Roe v. Wade is a Nixon appointee, was called Minnesota Twin with Warren Burger. It's really true.
Harry, breaking it all down, knows the history of that court. Clerked twice. Who clerks twice? Harry Litman's the answer.
All right, can I tell you a quick war story? A very quick war story. Yeah. Harry Blackman. I came back to clerk the second time, and someone that I knew was already there. He saw me in the hall and screamed down the huge Supreme Court corridor, "Harry!" Just as Justice Blackman turned the corner. His first name is Harry, and befuddled that some clerk had just screamed his first name. So that's a little Supreme Court war story for you.
I'll give you a war story. I once had to make a photocopy for a partner. I'm just joking. Your still war stories are better. Everybody hit subscribe. Let's get to 4 million subscribers. More importantly, subscribe to the Talking Feds YouTube channel, the Talking Feds podcast, and the Talking Feds Substack. If you want to know where I get my legal news from, how I learn about all of this, it's from Professor Harry Litman. Talking Feds YouTube, Talking Feds Substack, and Talking Feds podcast. Thanks, Harry.
Thank you, Ben.
Real quick, Meta just changed their algorithm to suppress political content. Please follow our Instagram at MeidasTouch right now as we head towards 400,000 followers so you don't miss a beat.